The sky above burned orange and red as warships descended through the clouds. Sergeant Danny Cole watched them come from his position near the temple gates. He counted 12 ships in the first wave alone. There would be more behind them. There were always more. He turned to look at his squad. 12 Marines stood ready behind the ancient stone walls of the Temple of. They were all that remained of the peacekeeping force sent by the Galactic Council to protect this world. 12 humans against an army. Lisa Marsh checked her medical supplies for the third time. She was young, barely 25, but her eyes held the weight of someone much older. War did that to people. It took their youth and gave them wisdom they never asked for. Tors loaded his heavy cannon and set it on the wall. He was a big man with thick arms and a gentle heart. Danny had served with him for 8 years. They had saved each other more times than either could count. The people moved past them in long lines. They were tall and thin with pale blue skin and large dark eyes. Their robes flowed like water as they walked. They did not run or push or scream. They simply moved with quiet grace toward the evacuation ships waiting behind the temple. High Priestess stood at the temple entrance and watched her people leave. She had lived for 300 years and had never seen war until now. Her species had no word for battle. They had no weapons. They had only their faith and their ancient traditions. She looked at the humans who had chosen to stay and fight. She did not understand them. They had no connection to. They had no stake in the survival of the. Yet here they stood, preparing to die for strangers. Danny approached her with respect in his eyes. He lowered his head slightly, as he had learned to do when speaking with elders. "High Priestess, you need to evacuate with your people," he said. "They will be here within the hour." Looked at him with those deep dark eyes that seemed to hold the stars themselves. "This is my temple, Sergeant Cole. I have served here for 200 years. I will not abandon it." Danny wanted to argue, but he saw the resolve in her face. He had seen that look before. It was the same look his grandmother had when she refused to leave her home during the floods back on Earth. Some things were worth more than survival. "Then stay behind us," Danny said. "We will hold them as long as we can." Tilted her head in that curious way the had. "Why do you do this? You could leave with the evacuation ships. No one would blame you. This is not your world." Danny looked back at his squad. Lisa was helping a young child find her mother, was showing an elder how to use the emergency shelter systems. Ben Carter, the youngest of them at only 20 years old, was carrying an elderly woman on his back toward the ships. "Because someone has to," Danny said simply, "and we are here." The first landed beyond the outer walls. Danny heard the heavy boots hitting the ground. He heard the charging of energy weapons. He heard the war cries of soldiers who had conquered 100 worlds. He raised his rifle and looked at his squad one last time. "Everyone knows their positions," he said through his communicator. "Hold fire until my signal. Make every shot count. We are not trying to win today. We are trying to give these people time to escape." Laugh through the channel. Just another Tuesday then. They came over the walls like a wave. They were reptilian creatures with thick scales and sharp teeth. Their armor was black and covered in the symbols of worlds they had destroyed. They moved fast and without fear. Danny gave the signal. The humans opened fire. The first line of soldiers fell before they knew what hit them. Human weapons were crude by galactic standards. They used projectiles instead of energy beams, explosives instead of plasma, but they were effective. They had never faced human soldiers before. They did not know what to expect. The battle lasted longer than Danny had hoped. His Marines moved like one creature with 12 bodies. They covered each other, protected each other, and fought with a fury that made them hesitate. Watched from the temple entrance. She had read about violence in ancient texts. She had seen images of war from other worlds, but nothing had prepared her for this. The noise was overwhelming. The flashes of light hurt her sensitive eyes. The smell of burning flesh and hot metal filled her nose. But what struck her most was the humans. They did not fight like conquerors. They did not take joy in killing. Each time one of them took a life, she could see the weight of it on their face. They killed because they had to, not because they wanted to. 3 hours into the battle, the first human fell. His name was. He was 32 years old with a wife and daughter waiting for him back on Earth. He took an energy blast to the chest while pulling a wounded civilian to safety. He died with his hand still holding the old man he had tried to save. Lisa reached him too late. She closed his eyes and whispered something could not hear. Then she picked up his weapon and returned to the fight. By sunset, 4 more humans had fallen. They kept coming. For everyone that died, 2 more took its place. The temple courtyard was filled with bodies, and the ancient stones were stained with blood from 2 species. Danny pulled his remaining Marines back to the inner walls. 7 of them left now. 7 humans against an army that seemed to have no end. He looked at the evacuation ships lifting off in the distance. Most of the civilians had escaped. The mission was working, but the cost was too high. Appeared at his side, breathing hard. His armor was cracked in 3 places, and blood ran down his arm from a wound he had not mentioned. "We cannot hold much longer," said. "They are bringing up heavy weapons." Danny nodded. He knew. He had seen the artillery moving into position. Behind them watched the humans prepare for another assault. She felt something stir in her chest. It was an emotion she had never experienced before. It was not fear or sadness. It was something deeper, something ancient. She walked into the inner sanctum, where the luminal core pulsed with soft, golden light. She placed her hand on its surface and closed her eyes. "Show me," she whispered. "Show me who these humans are." The core responded with images and feelings. She saw worlds the humans had saved. She saw sacrifices they had made. She saw a species that was young and fragile and mortal, yet they stood against the darkness again and again. When she opened her eyes, tears ran down her blue face. Outside, another human screamed as they overran his position. 6 remaining now, then 5, then 4. The sun set on, and finally understood what it meant to be human. The night brought no relief. The used lights mounted on their war machines to turn darkness into day. They wanted the humans to know they could not hide. They wanted them to feel the hopelessness of their situation. Danny Cole felt it. He felt the weight of every fallen soldier pressing down on his shoulders, but he did not let it show. A leader could not show despair, not when his people were still fighting. 4 Marines remained: Danny, Lisa, and young Ben Carter. They had retreated to the outer courtyard of the inner sanctum. The ancient walls here were thicker, built in an age when even the peaceful had feared something from the stars. Set up his heavy cannon at the main. It was a narrow passage between 2 walls where the enemy could only come 3 at a time, a perfect killing ground. "I will hold here," said. His voice was calm, too calm. "You 3 get to the inner sanctum, protect the priestess." Danny grabbed his arm. "We stay together. That has always been our way." Smiled. It was a sad smile, the kind a man wears when he knows his story is ending. "Our way has always been to protect those who cannot protect themselves. Right now, that means you 3 get the priestess to safety while I buy you time." Lisa stepped forward. "Your wounds are too severe. Let me stay instead." Laughed. It was a genuine laugh, warm and full of life despite everything. "Lisa, you are the only one who can keep Danny alive long enough to finish this mission, and Ben needs you to remind him why we fight." He looked at the young soldier. "No offense, kid." Ben tried to smile but could not manage it. He was scared. Everyone could see it, but he did not run. He stood his ground with shaking hands and a heart full of fear and courage in equal measure. Danny looked at his old friend. They had been through so much together, training, deployment, battles that should have killed them both, and now this. "I will tell them about you," Danny said. I will make sure everyone knows. Nodded, just make sure you get out alive to tell it. He turned to face the passage. Now go, they are coming. The three remaining Marines ran toward the inner sanctum. Behind them, they heard open fire. They heard his war cry echo through the ancient halls. They heard the scream as they fell one by one. Tors held that passage for 47 minutes. He took down over 100 soldiers before his ammunition ran out. When his weapons were empty, he drew his combat knife and kept fighting. When his knife broke, he used his fists. When he could no longer stand, he crawled toward the enemy and detonated his last grenade. The explosion brought down part of the passage, blocking it with rubble. It would take the hours to clear it, hours that Danny and the others desperately needed. In the inner sanctum, Felt's light leave the world. She gasped and pressed her hand to her chest. She had never felt death before, not like this, not as a physical sensation that tore through her being. Danny entered the sanctum with Lisa and Ben. His face was hard as stone, but his eyes were wet. Asked though she already knew. He bought us time, Danny said. We will not waste it. Lisa immediately began tending to the wounded who had been too injured to evacuate. There were about 30 of them, lying on makeshift beds around the great chamber. Most would not survive without proper medical care. Lisa knew this. She helped them anyway. A young child sat crying beside her unconscious mother. Lisa knelt down and took the child's hand. "What is your name?" Lisa asked. The child whispered. "That is a beautiful name. I am Lisa. I am going to help your mother, okay? But I need you to be brave for me. Can you do that?" The child nodded through her tears. Lisa smiled and began treating the mother's wounds. Ben watched Lisa work. He had joined the Marines because he wanted to see the galaxy. He wanted adventure and excitement. He had not expected this. He had not expected to watch his friends die one by one for people they had never met. "Why does she do it?" Ben asked Danny. "She knows most of them will not make it. Why does she still try?" Danny put a hand on the young man's shoulder. "Because trying is all we have. The moment we stop trying, we stop being human." Listen to their words. She had studied human culture since they first made contact with the galaxy. She had read their histories and their philosophies, but nothing in those texts had prepared her for the reality of who they were. They were impossible. They were weak and short-lived and fragile. Their technology was primitive. Their bodies broke easily. They had no natural weapons, no protective shells, no special abilities. By all measures, they should have been conquered and forgotten long ago. Yet here they were, fighting against impossible odds, dying for strangers, and never once questioning whether it was worth it. Approached Danny. "I have something to show you," she said, "something that might help us." She led him to the center of the sanctum, where the luminal core floated above its ancient altar. It was a sphere of pure light, pulsing with energy that predated the civilization itself. "This is the luminal core," she explained. "It was here when my ancestors first came to this world. We have protected it for 10,000 years. We do not fully understand what it is, only that it holds great power." Danny looked at the glowing sphere. "Can it help us fight the—" Hesitated. "I do not know. The ancient texts speak of a prophecy. They say that one day a species of defiance would stand at our gates. They would be weak in body but strong in spirit. They would sacrifice everything for nothing. And when the last of them fell, the core would awaken." Danny frowned. "A species of defiance, that is what you call us." "That is what the prophecy calls you," touched the core gently. "I always thought it was a metaphor. I never believed it would actually happen." Outside they heard explosions. They had cleared the rubble faster than expected. They were coming. Lisa appeared with blood on her hands and exhaustion in her eyes. "Danny, they are through." Danny raised his weapon. "Ben, stay with the priestess. Lisa with me." They ran to the entrance of the inner sanctum. The heavy doors would not hold for long, but they would make the pay for every inch. The first soldiers came through the newly cleared passage. Lisa and Danny opened fire together. They fought side by side as they had in a dozen battles before. Then heard Lisa scream. She ran to the entrance and saw Lisa lying on the ground. An energy bolt had caught her in the side. She was still alive, but barely. "Get her inside," Danny shouted as he provided cover fire. Ben ran out and grabbed Lisa. He pulled her toward the sanctum while Danny held the line alone. But it was not fast enough. A soldier aimed at Ben's back. Lisa saw it. With her last strength, she pushed Ben aside and took the shot meant for him. The bolt hit her chest. She was dead before she hit the ground. Ben screamed. He fired wildly at until Danny grabbed him and pulled him back. They retreated into the sanctum and sealed the doors. 3 humans had entered this temple. Only 2 remained. Danny knelt beside Lisa's body. He did not cry. He did not have time for tears, but saw his hands tremble as he closed her eyes. "She died saving me," Ben whispered. "Why would she do that?" Danny looked at the young man with ancient eyes. "Because that is who she was. That is who we all are. We protect each other, even when it costs us everything." The luminal core pulsed brighter, felt something stir in the air. Something was awakening. The doors shook with each impact. They were using their heavy weapons now. They had stopped trying to preserve the temple. They wanted only to destroy everyone inside. Danny Cole stood in the center of the inner sanctum with his weapon raised. His body was broken. He had wounds in his left leg, his right arm, and his side. Blood dripped from his fingers onto the ancient floor. But he would not sit down. He would not rest. Not while there was still a fight to finish. Ben Carter stood beside him. The young man had stopped shaking. Something had changed in his eyes when Lisa died. The fear was still there, but it had been joined by something else. Something harder, something older. "I never thought it would end like this," Ben said quietly. "When I joined the Marines, I thought I would see amazing things. I thought I would explore strange worlds and meet alien species and maybe fall in love with some beautiful girl from another planet." Danny almost smiled. "And instead you got this." "And instead I got this." Ben gripped his weapon. "But you know what? I do not regret it, not for a moment. I have seen things these past few hours that most people will never understand. I have seen what humans can be when everything is stripped away." Watched them from beside the luminal core. Her advisor, Elder Priest, had emerged from the hidden passages beneath the temple. He was old even by standards, with wrinkled blue skin and eyes that had seen centuries pass. "High Priestess, we must flee," urged. "The passages can take us to safety. We can escape while the humans hold them." Shook her head. "I will not leave them. They are soldiers. This is what they do. They would want you to survive." "They are more than soldiers." Turned to face the old priest. "I have lived 300 years. I have meditated on the nature of existence. I have sought enlightenment through peace and contemplation. But in one night, these humans have taught me more about the meaning of life than all my years of study." The doors cracked, metal bent and stone shattered. They were almost through. Danny looked at Ben. "I need you to do something for me." "Anything." "When those doors open, I want you to take the priestess and run. Use whatever passages she knows about. Get her to safety." Ben shook his head. "I am not leaving you." "That is an order, Private." "With all due respect, sir, I do not care." Ben stepped forward and stood shoulder to shoulder with Danny. "I watched Lisa die. I watched die. I am not going to watch you die alone. Whatever happens next, we face it together." Danny wanted to argue. He wanted to command the young man to safety. But he looked into Ben's eyes and saw the truth. This was not about orders anymore. This was about choice. And Ben had made his. "Together then," Danny said. The doors exploded inward. Soldiers poured through the gap. They were led by Commander Hal himself, a massive reptilian warrior covered in medals and scars. He had conquered 12 worlds for the Dominion. He had never known defeat. Ben opened fire first. He took down 3 before they even cleared the doorway. Danny joined him, his wounded arm screaming in pain with every shot. But there were too many. There had always been too many. A blade caught Ben in the shoulder. He spun and fell. Danny tried to reach him, but another soldier blocked his path. Ben looked up at the alien standing over him. He was bleeding badly. His weapon was out of reach. This was the end. But he did not beg. He did not cry. He looked the soldier in the eye and smiled. "You have no idea what you are dealing with," Ben said. "You think you have won. You have only made us angry." The raised his blade. Danny screamed and charged. He moved faster than his wounded body should have allowed. He drove his combat knife into the neck and pulled Ben to his feet. "I told you to run," Danny said. Ben laughed through the blood. "And I told you I do not care about orders." They retreated toward the altar. The luminal core pulsed above them, brighter than before. Stood beside it, her hands raised in an ancient gesture of prayer. Hal pushed through his soldiers and approached the humans. He was twice their size, covered in armor that had turned aside 1,000 weapons. "Enough," Hal said. His voice was deep and cold. "You have fought well for such a primitive species. I will give you one chance. Step aside. Let me take the core. I will allow you to leave this world alive." Danny raised his weapon. His hands were steady despite the pain. "I made a promise to protect this temple and the people inside it." "A promise to whom? These aliens do not even know your name. They will not remember your sacrifice. In 100 years, no one will know you ever existed." "That does not matter." Danny took a step forward. "I do not fight for glory or recognition. I fight because it is the right thing to do, because somewhere in this universe there has to be someone willing to stand up against people like you." Hal tilted his head. "Fascinating. Your species truly is insane." He drew his blade. "Kill the young one. Bring me the sergeant alive. I want to study this madness." 2 soldiers moved toward Ben. Danny stepped in front of him. "You want him, you go through me." The soldiers hesitated. They had seen what this human could do. They had watched him fight his way through their best warriors. He was wounded and exhausted and outnumbered, but something in his eyes made them afraid. Before they could act, Ben collapsed. His wounds had finally caught up with him. Danny caught him as he fell. "Hey," Danny said, "stay with me." Ben looked up at him with fatting eyes. "Did I do good, Sarge?" Danny felt tears on his cheeks. He did not try to hide them. "You did great, kid. You did great." Ben smiled. "Tell them, tell everyone what we did here. Tell them that humans do not give up." His eyes closed and he was still. Danny laid Ben down gently. He picked up his weapon and turned to face Hal. He was the last human standing. Behind him, watched with tears streaming down her face. She had seen 10 humans die in the past day. She had felt each death like a wound in her own soul, and now there was only one left. One fragile, mortal, impossible human standing against an army. She pressed her hands against the luminal core and whispered the words she had found in the ancient texts, words that had not been spoken in 10,000 years, words meant for this moment and no other. "Hear me," she prayed. "Hear me and awaken. The species of defiance stands at our gates. They have given everything, they ask for nothing. Their light is fading. Help them, please help them." The core pulsed once, twice, 3 times. And then it blazed with light so bright that even the stars seemed dim. The light from the luminal core filled the inner sanctum like water filling a vessel. It was warm and golden and alive. It touched every surface, every stone, every living being within the temple walls. Hal shielded his eyes with his armored hand. His soldiers stumbled backward, blinded by the sudden brightness. They had conquered worlds with fire and blade, but they had no weapon against light itself. Danny Cole stood in the center of the glow. The light wrapped around him like a cloak, but it did not heal him. It did not give him strength. Instead, it showed him something else. He saw them. Tor stood to his right, his heavy cannon resting on his shoulder. He was made of light now, translucent and beautiful, but his smile was the same warm smile Danny had known for 8 years. Lisa Marsh appeared on his left, her medical kit still hanging from her belt. She reached out and touched Danny's hand. Her fingers felt like sunlight. Ben Carter materialized behind him, young and eager and no longer afraid. He saluted Danny with a grin on his face. And beyond them, standing in formation, were the other 8 Marines who had fallen throughout the day, who had died saving a civilian. Sarah Mills, who had held the North Wall until it collapsed on her. All of them, every single one, now stood with Danny in the light. 12 humans had come too. 12 humans had fallen, and now 12 spirits of light surrounded the last one standing. Hal lowered his hand and stared at the impossible sight before him. What is this? What sorcery have you summoned? Stepped forward. Her hand still rested on the luminal core, and golden energy flowed through her veins like rivers of starlight. Her eyes had changed. They were no longer dark. They shone with the same light that filled the chamber. This is not sorcery, she said. Her voice echoed with power she had never possessed before. This is truth. This is what happens when beings of pure heart sacrifice themselves for others. Their light does not fade. It transforms. Impossible, Hal drew his blade. You are nothing but primitives and mystics. I have conquered races 1,000 times more advanced than yours. I will not be stopped by light and ghost stories. He charged at Danny with his blade raised. Danny did not move. He could not move. His body had finally given out. His legs buckled beneath him and he fell to his knees. His weapon dropped from his hands. After everything, after all the fighting and bleeding and dying, he had nothing left. But he did not have to fight anymore. Spirit stepped in front of him. The energy blade passed through his form, and where it touched, Hal's weapon shattered like glass. The commander stared at his broken blade in disbelief. What? Lisa moved forward next. She placed her translucent hand on Hal's chest, and he stumbled backward as if struck by a thunderbolt. You asked why we fight for strangers, Lisa said. Her voice was soft and clear, like bells ringing in a distant valley. We fight because every life has value. We fight because cruelty must be opposed. We fight because if we do not, then the darkness wins. Ben appeared beside her. We are not afraid of death. Death is just a door. What we fear is a universe where no one stands up for the weak. What we fear is a galaxy where beings like you can hurt others without consequence. Hal's soldiers tried to flee, but the light blocked every exit. They were trapped in the sanctum with the spirits of the humans they had killed. The 12 figures of light spread out around the room. They did not attack. They did not need to. Their presence alone was enough to paralyze them with a terror they had never experienced before. Danny looked up at Spirit. Is this real? Are you really here? Knelt beside him. We never left, brother. We have been with you since the moment we fell. You just could not see us until now. I failed. I could not save any of you. You did not fail. Lisa's spirit joined them. You gave us something to fight for. You gave us purpose. And now our sacrifice has meaning. The core responded to us because of you, Danny, because you never stopped believing, because you never gave up. Approached the gathering. The power of the core flowed through her, and she understood at last what the ancient prophecy meant. The species of defiance, she said. It was never about strength or technology or numbers. It was about spirit. The core responds to those who give everything for nothing. It amplifies their sacrifice and turns it into power. She turned to face Hal, who stood frozen in the center of his terrified soldiers. You asked if you would be stopped by light and ghost stories, said. The answer is yes, because these ghosts are more real than anything you have ever known. They are the truth that your empire has tried to deny. They are proof that compassion is stronger than cruelty, that love is stronger than hate, that the willingness to sacrifice for others is the greatest power in the universe. Hal found his voice. Kill her, kill them all. His soldiers raised their weapons, but their hands trembled. Some of them dropped their guns. Others fell to their knees. They had been trained to fight enemies they could see. They had no training for this. The 12 spirits of light joined hands. They formed a circle around the altar, around Danny, around and the wounded who lay on their makeshift beds. Looked at Danny one last time. We have to go soon, brother. The light cannot hold us here forever, but before we leave, we have one more thing to give. What is it? Hope. The spirits raised their joined hands toward the sky. The light in the chamber intensified until it became unbearable. Even Danny had to close his eyes against the brightness. And then the light exploded outward. It passed through the walls of the temple like they were made of air. It swept across the courtyard where hundreds of soldiers waited for their chance to attack. It flowed over the outer walls and down the mountain upon which the temple stood. Everywhere the light touched, soldiers fell, not dead but broken. Their weapons dissolved in their hands. Their armor crumbled from their bodies. They collapsed to the ground, stripped of everything that had made them warriors. Only Hal remained standing. The light had taken his weapons and armor, but it had left him alive. It had left him to witness what he had failed to destroy. He fell to his knees before Danny Cole. "What are you?" Hal whispered. Danny struggled to his feet. His body screamed in protest, but he would not face his enemy from the ground. "We are human," Danny said. "We are small and weak, and we do not live very long, but we do not give up. We do not abandon those who need us, and when we fall, we do not stay down." He looked at the spirits of his fallen comrades. They were fading now, their light growing dimmer as the core's power began to settle. "Thank you," Danny said to them, "all of you for everything." Smiled. "We will be waiting for you, brother, but not too soon. You still have work to do." The spirits dissolved into motes of light that drifted upward through the temple ceiling and disappeared into the night sky above. Danny watched them go. Then his legs finally gave out and he collapsed beside the altar. Caught him before he hit the ground. She held him in her arms as the light faded and silence finally returned to the temple of. The battle was over, they were defeated. And one human remained to tell the story of what had happened when the last human fell. 3 days passed before Danny Cole opened his eyes again. He woke in a soft bed surrounded by the gentle glow of healing crystals, sat beside him, reading from an ancient text. When she noticed him stir, she set the book aside and smiled. "You are awake," she said. "The healers were not certain you would survive. Your wounds were severe." Danny tried to sit up, but pain shot through his entire body. He fell back against the pillows and groaned. "Rest," said. "The battle is over. You have done enough." The gone. Those who survived the light fled to their ships and retreated. Commander Hal was taken into custody by the Galactic Council. He will stand trial for his crimes against 100 worlds. Danny closed his eyes. Images of the battle flashed through his mind, holding the passage alone. Lisa pushing Ben out of the way. Ben smiling as he died. 12 brave soldiers who would never go home. "My squad," Danny whispered. Took his hand. Her blue fingers were cool and soft against his skin. "We have recovered their bodies. They will be honored according to human tradition and according to ours." She stood and walked to the window. Outside, the sun was setting over. The sky burned orange and gold, beautiful and peaceful, as if no battle had ever been fought here. "Something has changed," said. "The luminal core is quiet now. Its light has dimmed, but it left something behind." She turned to face Danny. 12 pillars stand in the courtyard where your soldiers fell. They appeared when the light faded. They glow with the same golden energy that filled the core. Danny did not know what to say. He thought about Lisa and Ben and all the others. They had come to this world as strangers. They had died as something more. "The Galactic Council has sent representatives," continued. They witnessed the end of the battle from orbit. They saw the light sweep across the planet. They want to know what happened here. What did you tell them? The truth. Returned to her seat beside his bed. I told them that 12 humans stood against an army. I told them that they fought and bled and died for people they had never met. I told them that when the last human fell, the core awakened and drove thee away. And did they believe you? Some did, some did not. It does not matter. She reached out and touched Danny's face gently. What matters is that we know, my people know, the universe will learn in time. Danny was quiet for a long moment. Then he spoke the words that had been building in his heart since the battle ended. I should be dead. I should be with them. But you are not. The light healed your worst wounds. It kept you alive. Why me? Why not or Lisa or any of the others? They were better soldiers than me. Better people. Shook her head. The spirits did not choose you because you were better. They chose you because they knew you would carry their story. They knew you would not let the galaxy forget what happened here. She picked up the ancient text she had been reading. I have been studying the prophecies. They speak of the species of defiance not as warriors or conquerors, but as witnesses. Your people do not fight to win. You fight to remember. Every battle, every sacrifice, every fallen soldier becomes part of a story that stretches back thousands of years and forward into eternity. Danny thought about this. He thought about all the wars humans had fought, all the graves they had dug, all the names they had carved into stone. Was right. Humans were not the strongest or the most advanced, but they remembered. They carried their dead with them into the future. The door to the healing chamber opened, and a Galactic Council official entered. He was a tall being with silver skin and 6 arms, each holding a different data pad. Sergeant Cole, he said, I am ambassador of the Galactic Council. I have been sent to debrief you on the events of the battle. Danny tried to sit up again. This time helped him. I have already spoken with High Priestess, continued. But the Council wishes to hear your account directly. What do you want to know? Everything. The Council is considering granting humans a permanent seat on the Defense Committee. What happened here has changed many minds about your species. Danny laughed, though it hurt. All it took was 12 of us dying. Or's expression did not change. The Council has seen many species fight and die. What we have never seen is a species that would sacrifice themselves so completely for beings they did not know. This is unprecedented. It requires study. We are not a science experiment, Danny said. His voice was harder now. My soldiers were people. They had families, dreams, fears. They did not die to impress your council. Then why did they die? Danny he thought about the question. He thought about every answer he could give. Finally, he spoke. Because it was the right thing to do, that is all. There was no calculation, no political strategy, no hope of reward. We saw people in danger and we helped. That is what humans do. Or was silent for a long time. Then he lowered his data pads and nodded. I believe I understand now. Thank you, Sergeant. I will convey your words to the Council. He left the chamber, watched him go, then turned to Danny. You should rest more. The pilgrims will be arriving soon and they will want to see you. Pilgrims? Word has spread across the galaxy about what happened here. They are returning to the temple. Other species are coming to see the pillars of light. They want to pay their respects to the humans who saved us. Danny did not know how to feel about this. He had never wanted to be a symbol. He had just wanted to do his job and protect his people. But his people were gone now. He was the only one left, and that meant he had a responsibility to carry their memory forward. Help me up, he said. You are not strong enough to walk. Then hold me, but I am going to see those pillars. Supported him as they walked through the temple halls. Priests and healers bowed as they passed. Some whispered prayers. Others simply watched in silence. They emerged into the courtyard as the last light of sunset painted the sky in shades of gold and pink. And there, standing in a perfect circle around the temple entrance, were 12 pillars of light. Each pillar was about 3 meters tall and glowed with a soft golden radiance. They were beautiful and impossible and eternal. Danny walked to the nearest pillar. He placed his hand against its surface. It felt warm, like sunlight on skin. He whispered. He moved to the next pillar, Lisa, and the next, Ben. He went to each one in turn, speaking the name of the soldier it represented. By the time he reached the last pillar, tears were streaming down his face. Stood beside him. They will never fade, she said. The light is permanent. As long as this temple stands, your soldiers will stand with it. Danny wiped his eyes. He looked up at the stars beginning to appear in the darkening sky. We are just humans, he said. We live short lives and make terrible mistakes and fight wars we should never have started. But when it matters, when everything is on the line, we show up. We stand and fight. And when we fall together. Nodded. That is why the prophecy called you the species of defiance. You defy death by remembering. You defy fate by refusing to surrender. You defy the darkness by bringing your light wherever you go. She took his hand. The galaxy will never forget what happened here, Danny Cole. I will make sure of it. I have already begun writing the sacred text that will tell this story for 10,000 years. Danny looked at the 12 pillars of light. He thought about Slav and Lisa's kindness and Ben's courage. He thought about all the soldiers who had trusted him to lead them. They had followed him into battle. They had died believing in him. Now it was his turn to believe in them. Tell them everything, Danny said. Tell them that humans are stubborn and foolish and sometimes cruel, but also tell them that we love with our whole hearts. Tell them that we protect those who cannot protect themselves. Tell them that when the universe needed heroes, 12 ordinary soldiers answered the call. He took one last look at the pillars. Tell them that when the last human fell, the light rose up in their place, and the darkness never stood a chance. Smiled, I will tell them, Danny. I will tell them everything. And she did. For 10,000 years, the story was told across the galaxy. The story of 12 humans who stood against an army. The story of sacrifice and courage and defiance. The story of the light that answered when all hope was lost. And every time a new generation heard the tale, they looked up at the stars and wondered. If humans could do this, what else was possible? What else could beings of love and courage achieve in a universe that so often seemed cold and dark? The answer was simple. The answer was written in light. Anything, humans could achieve anything. All they had to do was try.